Women's History Month, and earlier this week was International Women's Day, and Jayne, we were very lucky to have pilot Emily as a guest on the stream. There were also many women who flew the Spitfire, and in fact, I believe this is correct, but if I got this wrong, someone check and correct me, the most experienced in terms of hours flown Spitfire pilots were almost all women. Whenever you show quarter, the audio goes weird. So Pieter, maybe you can switch to my point of view. Okay, testing. How is the audio now? Let us know, chat. Is it any better? It's better, okay. Alright, so I'll start over. I'll tell the story from the top. So, we were talking about some of the famous fighter pilots. Douglas Bader, I mentioned, my middle name is named after Douglas Bader. But this being Women's History Month of March, and earlier this week, Monday being International Women's Day, I wanted to highlight some of the women who flew the Spitfire. And in fact, in terms of hours flown, some of these women pilots actually had the most hours of any Spitfire pilot anywhere in the world. And they were members of what was called the ATA, or Air Transport Auxiliary, and it was their job to fly the planes from the factory floor after assembly was completed, and deliver them to the forward air bases the fighter pilots were stationed. And they flew in very challenging, difficult conditions in all weather. There were two quite famous ones. One was a British woman. Her name was Mary Ellis, and she only died just recently, 3 years ago, at age 101. And she was considered the queen of the Spitfire. And I think she had more hours in Spitfires than anyone else in the world. And another one in Canada, where I'm from, there was a woman named Marion Orr, who was from Vaughan, Ontario, which is near Toronto. And she was also a delivery pilot. She had thousands and thousands of hours flying not only Spitfires, but some of the heavy engine bombers, like the 4-engine Halifax and Lancaster bombers that normally had a crew of 8. She was flying them solo to deliver them from the factory floor to the air bases. It was absolutely incredible what she was doing. And after the war ended, she moved back to Toronto, or to the Toronto area, and she opened a flying school in Vaughan, Ontario, at Maple Field. The airfield unfortunately no longer exists. It's been demolished to make room for urban sprawl. But in the 1950s, Marion Orr, a former Women's Auxiliary Air Transport pilot, became the first woman in Canada to run a flying school.
That's awesome.
Crazy.
Good women.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So people often have in their head that flying Spitfires and Hurricanes and other military aircraft was purely a man's game in World War II, but absolutely not. In fact, it was the women didn't go in combat. Well, the Western women, we'll maybe talk about some of the Soviet women who did fly in combat on another stream. That's a whole other story. But some of the highest flight hour fighter pilots, Spitfire pilots in the Second World War were indeed women, not men.
Also probably because they did less stupid stuff.
So we're about 30 nautical miles from our landing. I'd like to suggest we do a flyover at 2,000 feet, so Ron can pick us up on a flyover on camera, and then we'll circle around.
Yes.
We'll do a breakout of peel off, if you want to call it that, on a left downwind coming back to the airport. Is that okay with the rest of the leaders?
Yeah, sounds good.
That works for me.
Sounds good. I think I've got...
Two-tone diving in.
I think I've got the field in sight.
We'll do a flyover at 2,000. So my group, whoever's behind me, let's just climb a bit to 2,000 for the flyover.
anyone in chat, or the 6 people we have on voice comms, have any of you seen a Spitfire flying in the air in real life? Not just a static display at a museum, but an actual airworthy Spitfire flying.
Yeah, I was over at an air show in the UK years ago. It was not Farmley. What's the other one called? It's a huge air show that they have, and they had a Spitfire.
Farnborough.
Farnborough, that's the one. And it's just that sound. It's like I remember as a kid years and years ago they had they were pretty much a static display. So the Irish Air Corps operated these mainly as a training aircraft, and they had the T2 variant, so it was like 2 seats.